Over the years, stars we never thought we'd get to see in Vince McMahon's company have appeared sometimes out of nowhere to completely alter the landscape of the product and reinvigorate an organization often on the brink of becoming a little bit unwatchable. Yet not all of these stunning acquisitions and underrated stalwarts already inside of the company have been lucky enough to get the opportunities they deserve. Whatever the frustrating reason, many ridiculously talented wrestlers have all been victims of bad timing over the years. And these 10 ill-fated stars in particular all sadly prove that sometimes unquestionable ability can only get you so far. I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 ridiculously talented wrestlers who were victims of bad timing. Number 10, Batista. When Dave Batista departed WWE in 2010, he left quite the legacy in the rearview mirror. Then, when the Animal decided in 2013 that enough time had passed since his exit 3 years earlier, the company were probably expecting the former Evolution member to pick right up where he left off and be warmly welcomed back by a WWE universe which had been deprived of him for so long. Yet Batista could not have timed this return any worse. Thrown straight into a landscape where Daniel Bryan and CM Punk were the two names at the top of every fan's list of who they'd like to see in the main event of WrestleMania 30, Batista was bombarded with boos after his second Rumble match victory, and took the brunt of the backlash for Vince McMahon's decision to not let Punk or Bryan win instead. The rest of Batista's run would be hampered by Go Home heat, and he was even christened Bootista. Poor Dave. Number 9, Kaval. Low-key was the inaugural Ring of Honor World Champion, a PWG World Champion, a 3-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, and 5-time X Division Champion. That's quite a list. Yeah, and if you'd only ever really witnessed this dynamic superstar inside of a WWE ring under the name of Kaval, you'd probably have wondered what all the fuss was about. Arriving in Vince McMahon's company at a time when the NXT we know and love today was barely even a pipe dream, Kaval spent a period in WWE's then developmental territory, FCW, before being entered as a contestant in the second season of the fledgling NXT competition/show thing they were doing. I don't know. He actually won the season and even ended up on SmackDown for a while. But his only match of any real note came at Survivor Series 2010 when Kaval lost his match versus Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship, his reward for winning that competition show reality thing. You have to imagine that if Kaval had instead arrived on the WWE scene today, he would have probably found a suitable home on today's work rate-centric version of NXT, and been given a real platform to showcase the distinct skill set he was never properly allowed to on the main roster. Number 8, Paige. Debuting on the night after WrestleMania 30 and beating AJ Lee for the Divas title on her very first night on Monday Night Raw, Paige couldn't have asked for a better breakthrough onto the main roster. Yet her momentum was soon scuppered by WWE's typically uninspired booking of the talented women at their disposal, and before long she was overshadowed by the arrival of her former NXT co-workers in the form of Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks. Ill-timed injuries and suspensions meant that Paige would never be able to fulfill her potential as one of the feature stars of WWE's rechristened women's division, and by the time she was forced into retirement in 2018, fans were left wondering what could have been. If Paige had stayed in NXT and arrived onto the main roster at the same time as the Horsewomen, could she have escaped the monotony of 2014's Divas landscape and been a top active star in the company today? Maybe. Number 7, EC3. During his run on NXT, Ethan Carter III didn't exactly set the world on fire, but he was never supposed to on a brand centered around hyperactive workers who were more focused on putting on clinics in the ring rather than entertaining the crowd with their linguistic abilities. He was simply being gradually reintegrated into the WWE landscape, and his feuds with Velveteen Dream and Lars Sullivan showcased just how fantastic a sports entertainer the star genuinely was. Unfortunately, EC3 was rushed into the spotlight just before WrestleMania 35 in a desperate attempt to boost ratings in the thick of Mania season. Before long, he found himself sipping a red cup in the background of 24/7 title segments, wondering how it all went so wrong. Me too, 3. I just called him 3. I'm sticking with it. Me too, 3. If EC3 would have perhaps stayed on NXT for a while longer and avoided his lackluster 2019 Mania season call-up, he could have added yet another dimension to the black and yellow brand in their now weekly battle against AEW. Number 6. Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn looks set to take the main roster by storm after a barn-burning United States Championship battle in his Monday Night Raw debut against John Cena in 2015. But then Zayn unfortunately went down injured after the match, thanks to blowing out his shoulder during his over-exuberant entrance, and wasn't able to follow through on the momentum he'd generated upon this initial appearance. Finally, an appearance in the 2016 Royal Rumble announced his legitimate call-up to the main roster, and even though fans still felt somewhat invested in the former El Generico, he didn't recapture that same level of electricity which met him on his first night on Raw. A well-received mid-card feud against his old rival Kevin Owens followed, but that was to be Zayn's last real program of worth in the company, and he soon found himself slipping down the card, to the point where he's now residing as a manager. I mean, just how does that happen? Number 5. Bobby Lashley. During his second TNA run, Lashley reinvented himself as a monstrous heel, and his newfound MMA legitimacy helped add another layer of formidability to his already intimidating character. The dude was scary. So when he finally shocked the WWE Universe and returned on the night after WrestleMania 34, you'd have thought that this in-demand, polished-off character would have surely been given the push necessary to re-establish himself as a serious threat in the company. Instead, McMahon opted to embroil him in one of the worst feuds of the decade with Sami Zayn, and an underwhelming battle of the big boys with Roman Reigns then followed. Just as Lashley started to pick up some momentum, he was taken off TV due to a few niggling injuries, and his chance to capitalise on the pair's well-received last man standing match at Extreme Rules 2019 was taken away by a badly timed absence. He returned 2 months later with Lana dangling around his neck and had been transformed from a wrecking machine into a wife-stealing goof. Oh, Lashley, what could have been, man? Number 4. AJ Styles. Long before he was tearing it up on WWE as one of the company's most trustworthy hands, and even before he defined the style of his generation in TNA, AJ Styles was competing for a multitude of independent promotions upon his debut in 1998. He would finally get his first taste of the big time when he was snapped up by WCW in 2001. Then, when Vince McMahon bought out said company, Styles was given a tryout with WWF. But sadly, he was only offered a developmental contract by McMahon, and the Phenomenal One chose to decline the offer in order to not interfere with his wife's college plans. He would obviously forge a hell of a career in the wake of this decision, and became synonymous with WWE's only real rival in the mid-2000s in the form of TNA. Yet, despite his worldwide acclaim and eventually making his presence known in McMahon's company in 2016, you can't help but wonder how Styles' career could have turned out if he'd been afforded a consistent spot in a promotion as big as WWF/E or WCW at an earlier stage in his career. Number 3. Roman Reigns. Without question, in the Shield's heyday, Roman Reigns had been the most over member of the trio, and his rise to the rank of main event caliber superstar was inevitable. That being said, post-Shield breakup, there was still only one star in the company which fans around the world wanted to see in the closing match of WrestleMania 31. That man again, Daniel Bryan. Reigns was a popular figure and definitely had the potential to be the face of the company. However, at this point in time, he quite clearly wasn't ready to take up the main event mantle, and still felt a touch green to be taking on Brock Lesnar for the gold. Vince McMahon obviously disagreed, because of course he did, and booked Reigns to come out on top in the 2015 Rumble match, and the big dog was subsequently booed out of the building, not for the last time, due to nothing more than the fact that he wasn't called Daniel Bryan. Yeah. Number 2. Finn Balor. Finn Balor ripped through Kevin Owens, Cesaro, Rusev and Roman Reigns on his first night on Raw, and earned the chance to become the inaugural Universal Champion at SummerSlam. He then took on Seth Rollins for the newly revealed Red World title and unleashed his inner Demon King on the Architect to win the gold in his first ever appearance on a main roster pay-per-view. However, it quickly came to light that Balor had severely injured his labrum in the match, and the muscle would require surgery coupled with a hefty layoff to repair. Balor relinquished the title the night after he won it, and even though he returned to full fitness on the Raw after WrestleMania 33, the main event starship had sailed for Balor, and he wouldn't hold another World Championship again during the rest of his tenure on either Raw or SmackDown. He's currently embracing his inner prince on NXT and feels like the star he should have always been again. Thank God. Number 1, Kevin Owens. In the build-up to Kevin Owens' 2019 return, vignettes started to air highlighting how KO had been leaning into the family man qualities which had made him such a popular figure outside of the ring. But then, Owens was yet another victim of Vince McMahon's desperate attempts to boost ratings in 2019, and was rushed back into the fold to replace Kofi Kingston in a match against Daniel Bryan for the WWE title at Fastlane. After losing that match, Owens was left with nothing to do at Mania, and was incredibly turned heel again to feud with Kingston over the WWE title, only to be turned back face soon after to challenge Shane McMahon's mind-numbing presence on the product. What could have been an epic comeback soon felt like just another day in the office for a company committed to ballsing up the execution of their performers' returns. And that's our list. Know of any other ridiculously talented wrestlers who were victims of bad timing? Let us know all about them in the comment section below. And do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button. Do that, click on it. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Have the best day possible, and thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.